Lingsha totally reminds me of Hunt March. She can have different builds, and all of them are strong in their own ways. She has good toughness damage for faster breaks, and is able to boost the break damage of the team, making her an excellent sustain for break teams. Also, having high attack frequency thanks to the follow-up attacks of Fuyuan, Lingsha can fit into follow-up attack teams. In this guide, I will teach you how Lingsha works and explain all the important details of her kit. I will cover both her Superbreak build and critical build. If you found the guide helpful, consider liking the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on up-to-date information. I always read everyone's comments, so feel free to ask questions that were not answered in the video. Without further ado. The new Cauldron Master of the Xianzhou Luofu's Alchemy Commission is one perceptive and intelligent Vidyadhara healer. With a keen sense of smell, she diagnoses ailments and calms minds with aromatic therapy. Adept at navigating complex social relationships, she can remain impeccably composed even when turmoil rages within. Lingsha is a 5-star fire element character that heals the team and cleanses debuffs through her own abilities and her summon, Fuyuan. At the same time, she has great offensive capabilities where she can specialize through either Superbreak or critical damage. She follows the abundance path. When entering battle with Lingsha's technique, she will immediately summon Fuyuan and inflict a debuff called B-Fog on all enemies that lasts for 2 turns. Fuyuan has a base speed of 90 and could be advanced forward through Lingsha's skill and ultimate. 20% from skill, and 100% from ultimate. When Fuyuan acts, it will launch a follow-up attack that deals AoE damage to all enemies, and a single target damage that prioritizes an enemy that is not broken and is weak to the fire element. Additionally, it will dispel 1 debuff from all allies and restore HP based on Lingsha's attack stats. When any ally drops to 60% or below HP, Fuyuan will immediately launch its follow-up attack as an extra action through Lingsha's A6 trace. This would not reset Fuyuan's action value nor consume any of its action count. This effect can be triggered again after Lingsha takes turns twice. From this, you can see how important Fuyuan is as it automatically heals the team and dispel annoying debuffs whenever it acts. Its AoE and single target attack have 10 toughness damage each, making it excel at breaking the enemy. For reference, the majority of skills in the game have 20 toughness damage. Fuyuan can only act 3 times whenever it is summoned. This action count can be increased by 3 whenever Lingsha uses her skill. Fuyuan's action count caps at 5. When B-Fog is applied to enemies, the targets receive 25% increased break damage. Aside from Lingsha's technique, her ultimate can also apply B-Fog on all enemies. Naturally, this makes Lingsha a great sustain for teams that focus on break damage. Aside from that, here are some important things to note. Lingsha's skill, ultimate, and talent are all AoE attacks that hit all enemies. At the same time, all of these attacks would heal the team based on Lingsha's attack stats. Lingsha's basic attack can recover 10 extra energy through her A4 trace. This means that if you don't necessarily need to use her skill, she would still generate 30 energy. Lingsha's A2 trace converts a portion of her break effect stats. 25% conversion for attack, and 10% conversion for outgoing healing. This would cap to 50% and 20% respectively. To quickly summarize, you need 200% break effect stats to cap its effect, but it is not mandatory. Interestingly, if your Lingsha uses a skill basic rotation, she doesn't need any speed at all to perfectly align herself with Fuyuan's actions. You simply need to make sure that Lingsha uses her ultimate when Fuyuan is still at 0 action value. This is due to the fact that Lingsha's ultimate is a 100% advance forward, not an extra action. If you watched my speed guide, you will understand that you cannot have extra advance forward be carried over to the next turn. If that's confusing, just make sure that you use Lingsha's ultimate at the very start of a wave or right after Fuyuan acts. This is to make sure that you are not wasting any of the ultimate's advance forward. Even though I said Lingsha doesn't need any speed, that doesn't mean you should not build her with any speed. It is an option to have no speed, but it would be more comfortable if you build her fast, especially if you need her to generate skill points. Just do not forget what I said about her ultimate. Fuyuan's follow-up attack is quite a game changer. It has good damage, toughness damage, it can heal the team and cleanse debuffs. You can trigger it more frequently by abusing Lingsha's A6 trace. Its only requirement is for an ally to drop below 60% HP, so make sure that your builds are not too tanky, or simply make everyone's build go full offensive. Interestingly, this trace would still trigger even if you heal an ally that has below 60% HP with Lingsha's skill, if Lingsha ending her turn coincidentally resets the trace's effect. If that was confusing, here's an example scenario. At this exact moment, Lingsha's A6 trace is still on a one-turn cooldown, which is why Fuyuan isn't performing its follow-up attack, even though Lingsha herself is below 60% HP. Despite using Lingsha's skill, which restores her HP back to above 60%, Lingsha ending her turn is registered first, and acknowledges that she was below 60% HP, therefore, triggers the free follow-up attack even if Lingsha heals herself. Knowing this is important because you might get confused and think that Fuyuan took its action naturally, which can lead to bad ultimate timings. Before going to the next section, I would like to say that Lingsha's Superbreak build is very simple. It can be summarized with infographics that can be found in the final build section to save you a lot of time. If you have no plans to go for a critical build on Lingsha, feel free to skip this section. First, let me answer the biggest question. Is Lingsha's critical build purely a meme build, or is it actually strong and viable? It is actually strong and viable. While Lingsha's theoretical damage output on a single target isn't anything special, her multi-target damage potential surprised me. As a sub-damage dealer, she can easily pump out numbers close to erudition characters. I won't write down any character names specifically because it will just start a doom posting trend. Here's Lingsha's critical build ranking. It is assumed that Lingsha is using the new banana planar set and is wearing speed boots. Context is important, so I will guide you through each build. Valor plus Luocha, as the name implies, is Lingsha wearing the Valor set and Luocha's signature light cone. It gives Lingsha good attack stats and allows herself to use a 2-turn ultimate rotation without needing an energy rope. This is Lingsha's strongest and most consistent critical build. Thief plus signature implies that Lingsha is wearing the Thief set and her signature light cone. I spoke too early when I said that you absolutely need Luocha's signature light cone for Lingsha's critical build. But I was wrong. Thief set provides 3 energy each time the wearer breaks enemy weakness. If Lingsha can get hit once and break at least 2 enemies within 3 turns, she can guarantee a 3-turn ultimate rotation without needing an energy rope. 4-piece Thief also provides a total of 36% break effect stat, which she converts to some attack stats through her A2 trace. This build is not far behind her best build as seen on the ranking. Not to mention, using her signature light cone means more team play as it provides a vulnerability debuff. Getting 150% break effect won't be too much of a problem since she would only need around 20% more to reach it. Duke plus signature implies that Lingsha is wearing the Grand Duke set and her signature light cone. The build is using an energy rope, but is still very competitive as long as Lingsha keeps hitting 4 to 5 enemies with Fuyuan's follow-up attacks. Valor plus signature implies that Lingsha is wearing the Valor set and her signature light cone. This build is using an energy rope to guarantee Lingsha's 3-turn ultimate rotation, making it noticeably weaker than her best build. As for the ones below, the builds using the Thief set also rely on getting hit and breaking 2 enemies to guarantee a 3-turn ultimate rotation without needing an energy rope. 635 attack refers to light cones that have a base attack of 635. Currently, these are Imbibitor Lune, Acheron, Robin, and Fei Xiao's signature light cones. Gallagher Light Cone refers to the free-to-play light cone that can be bought in the Memory of Chaos shop. Post-op refers to Natasha's light cone, which gives 16% energy regeneration at rank 5. This means that Lingsha is allowed to wear the Valor set, and would not need an energy rope to guarantee a 3-turn ultimate rotation. Lingsha's first Eidolon increases her weakness break efficiency by 50%. Additionally, broken enemies in the field have their defense reduced by 20%. Both effects of this Eidolon work in synergy with each other. After all, the faster you break enemies, the more you benefit from the defense reduction. Majority of trash mobs in the game have 10, 20, and 30 toughness. Without this Eidolon, and without relying on Lingsha's ultimate, her skill and Fuyuan's follow-up attacks struggle to break enemies with 30 toughness, but with this Eidolon, she can now break them easily. Obviously, if an E1 Lingsha is teamed up with Ruin Mei, her weakness break efficiency is now doubled. Enemies with 20 toughness would now instantly get broken with Lingsha's skill, or Fuyuan's follow-up attack. Naturally, this improves her overall Superbreak damage with the Harmony Trailblazer. After all, the higher the toughness damage of a character is, the higher Superbreak damage they deal. 20% defense reduction alone is just an 11.7% overall damage increase. But remember that as you stack defense reduction, the damage increase becomes more potent. For example, if you have already stacked 80% defense reduction and add Lingsha's E1, her 20% defense reduction would translate to a 22% overall damage increase. If you really like Lingsha, I highly recommend getting this Eidolon. Lingsha's second Eidolon increases all allies' break effect by 40% for 3 turns after using her ultimate. Lingsha's fourth Eidolon allows Fuyuan to restore the lowest HP ally by 40% of Lingsha's attack stats whenever it takes action. Lingsha's final Eidolon reduces all enemies' all-type resistance by 20%, as long as Fuyuan is in the field. Additionally, it adds a bounce attack to Fuyuan's follow-up attacks, which deals 50% of Lingsha's attack for each hit, up to a maximum of 4 hits. The bounce attack prioritizes enemies that are not broken and is weak to the fire element. Similar to the majority of bounce attacks in the game, each hit deals 5 toughness damage. Lingsha's great toughness damage capabilities and Befog, which greatly improves the damage of breaks and super breaks, automatically makes her the best sustain for any break team. So that will be Lingsha as the sustain, Harmony Trailblazer to enable super breaks, Ruin Mei to improve the team's overall efficiency, and whoever the core super break damage dealer is. Current meta picks for the main damage dealer would be Boothill, Firefly, and Hunt March. Firefly needs a special mention due to how her skill reduces her HP by 40%, which triggers Lingsha's A6 trace and causes Fuyuan to perform a follow-up attack. On a side note, the same synergy can be applied to Blade and Arlen. Not in a Super Break team, of course. Off-meta picks would be Himeko and Fei Xiao. Lingsha's high attack frequency with Fuyuan makes her not limited to break teams, and allows her to compete against Aventurine as the sustain for follow-up attack teams. So that will be Lingsha as the sustain, Robin as the team-wide buffer and 2 damage dealers. Alternatively, it could be 1 core damage dealer and a sub-damage dealer with supportive capabilities. For follow-up attackers, we have Clara, Yunli, Herta, Himeko, Ratio, Jade, and Fei Xiao. For sub-damage dealers that can support, there's Topaz, Hunt March, and Mose. However, I know that there are players who would like Lingsha to be the star of the show. This is possible as long as you have the dedication and are willing to heavily invest in Lingsha. For a Super Break team, that would be Lingsha, Harmony Trailblazer, Ruin Mei, and Hunt March. For a follow-up attack team, that would be Lingsha, Robin, Hunt March, and another support. Ideally, a support that is synergistic with follow-up attack teams like Bronya or Sparkle. Hunt March was specifically mentioned because her buffs apply to Lingsha's AoE attacks, unlike with Topaz or Mose where they could only put their debuffs on one target at a time. If you're bringing Lingsha to Pure Fiction, then simply replace Hunt March with either Jade, Himeko, or Herta. Overall, Lingsha is a very versatile sustain that can fit into many different team setups. Should you try to pull Lingsha if you get the chance? No. I've already mentioned this before. Pulling for limited sustains is always questionable. You can definitely live without them as long as you play the game properly. The biggest reason to pull for them is either because you really like the character, or you want the quality of life limited sustain brings to your overall gameplay experience. No matter what people say, she is indeed an upgrade over Gallagher. There are two common arguments against Lingsha when it comes to this topic. It is argued that Gallagher has superior toughness damage and better skill point generation. Gallagher's best combo is using basic attack into ultimate into an enhanced basic attack. This is a total of 60 toughness damage on a single target. If Lingsha uses her skill, got Fuyuan to act and followed it immediately with her ultimate, she would do a total of 70 toughness damage on a single target. If the enemy triggers Lingsha's A6 trace, then that's another free 20 toughness damage. Taking everything into account, that's a total of 90 toughness damage, which is not inferior to Gallagher at all. Another thing to consider is how the majority of Lingsha's toughness damage are AoE. When it comes to skill point generation, that is where Gallagher outperforms Lingsha. But this isn't exactly a problem if you can manage your skill points properly. For example, in Superbreak teams, you don't really need to use Harmony Trailblazer's skill on every single turn. However, Gallagher is still unmatched when it comes to using Quid Pro Quo LC and Multiplication LC. This is something you cannot take away from him, which makes him very competitive against a limited sustain such as Lingsha. Lingsha, of course, has the option to go for a critical build and stay with a follow-up attack team instead. Gallagher, as usual, can stay in your Superbreak teams. They can definitely coexist. For anyone new to the game, I highly recommend getting Lingsha, as she could basically do everything, especially if you can get her first Eidolon and signature light cone. An E1S1 Lingsha is a permanent, massive quality of life to your account. And that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one.